Hi friends, welcome to Social Studies with Ms. Shin. Today we're going to be discussing community. Let's start with our learning intentions. We are learning to investigate settlement patterns to draw conclusions about our community so that we can understand the characteristics that define our own community. We will be successful when we compare characteristics between rural, suburban, and urban communities. Let's start with some vocabulary words. The first term I want to discuss is rural communities. Rural communities are areas outside of cities and towns, often known as the countryside. Next is suburban communities. Suburban communities are areas located in a town or city that is mainly made up of neighborhoods, houses, schools, and small shops. The final vocabulary term that I would like to discuss is urban communities. Urban communities are busy areas located in cities or towns with lots of big buildings where people live and work. Let's take a listen to this video so we can understand rural, suburban, and urban communities a little bit better.
This is a movie about the three different types of communities where people live: urban, suburban, and rural communities. These places are special in different ways, and these differences change how people live in them. Urban communities. Cities are urban communities. A lot of people live close together in cities. In fact, homes are often built on top of each other to create apartment buildings. Because people live in apartments, there aren't many yards. The buildings are just too close together. Instead, children play in the many parks found around the city. Although there are lots of fun things to do in the city, like go to museums, plays, and sporting events, there isn't a lot of space. Because of all of the things happening there, cities have a lot of traffic. So many people decide to take buses, taxis, and trains to get around. Urban communities are busy places. Suburban communities. Suburban communities often grow next to urban communities. This is because many of the people who live in suburban places work in urban places. Suburban communities are often called the suburbs for short. In the suburbs, most people live in houses. These houses are built together in groups called neighborhoods. The suburbs have more space and less traffic than the city. This allows people to have backyards. There are also buses and trains in the suburbs, but not as many as in the city. In fact, the trains usually take people from the suburbs to the city so that people can get to their jobs. There are a lot of fun things to do in suburban places too, such as shopping in town, catching a movie, or playing in your yard or in a park. The suburbs have a little bit of everything. Rural communities. Rural communities are the farthest from the city. There aren't as many people living in rural communities, and the houses are spaced far apart. Sometimes neighbors live so far away that they need to drive just to visit. All that space makes cars and trucks important for people to get around. But everyone is so spaced out that there is almost no traffic. That space also makes rural communities good places for farms to grow food and animals, orchards to grow fruit, and mines to dig out minerals and metal. People work hard in rural communities, but it's also a quiet place to be, and there's a lot of fun space for children to run around in, play, and explore. All these communities are very different from each other, but they also have things in common. All these places have services like fire and police departments to keep them safe. They have libraries and post offices too. And although they may look different, all three have places to live, work, and play.
Okay, let's review. What is a rural community? Yeah, it's an area outside of cities and towns, often known as the countryside. Here is a picture of a rural area. So, what kinds of things might you find in a rural community? I'll give you a couple seconds to think about that. That's right, open land, farms, and tractors. What is a suburban community? A suburban community is an area located in cities or towns that is mainly made up of houses, schools, and small shops. Remember, all those houses together make neighborhoods. So, what kinds of things might we find in a suburban community? I hope you thought about things like houses, schools, and parks. All right, friends, finally, what is an urban community? An urban community is an area located in a town or city with lots of big buildings where people live and work. Here is an example of a picture of an urban community. So, what kinds of things might we find in an urban community? Yes, I hope you said things like busy cities, skyscrapers, which are really tall buildings, and subways, which is another name for those trains that they talked about in the video. All right, friends, so today we are learning to investigate settlement patterns to draw conclusions about our community so that we can understand the characteristics that define our own community. We will be successful when we can compare characteristics between rural, suburban, and urban communities. In today's assignment, you are going to highlight the best answer that describes each of these communities. Okay, when you're all done, don't forget to click the green check so your teacher can see all of your wonderful work. I will see you next time, friends. Bye.